Hey everybody, this is Lauren Stein over here at Acctivate. I am the manager of the implementation team, and today we're going to go over the different tools that you can use within Acctivate to master your customer communications and keep track of everything. Alright, so first off, customers obviously are key in tracking customer communications. Being able to maintain customers in Acctivate gives you the ability to track all related communication in the system you're transacting information with. Since Acctivate synchronizes customers both ways to QuickBooks, the users can update the main customer information such as the name, address, phone number, whether they're in Acctivate or QuickBooks, and see changes in both places after you synchronize. This really comes in handy when you have people using one or the other system and not both, or even if you've got people that are in both systems, so that way whatever they're updating is being synchronized over, at least the main customer information. Each customer can also have its own list of customer contacts. You can set up a separate contact for the payable, receivable, and customer service employees, or really anybody on their team that you would need to save their own unique phone number, email, or any other contact information. In the past, we've had customers use the contact ID or title for things like our broadcast email campaigns, or also as a way to filter things like if you're doing an Excel query to pull information out of the database, or maybe even using Microsoft Query to show specific information. These contacts can also be selected on the sales order documents based on what a person or which person should be contacted for that specific order. And you'll also be able to toggle this information on windows like the business activity window to ensure the proper person is being communicated with for whatever project or maybe RMA process you're dealing with. On top of the customer information window itself, we also have ways to manage credit and collections. In configuration management, you can set credit evaluation specifications. This includes when to deny credit if invoices are overdue, if the customer is over their limit, whether or not to include open sales and service orders in the evaluation, and also any unbilled time and materials on business activities if you're using the service billing. You can also set the credit-specific information like credit rating and source on each customer record. After setting this in configuration, you'll be able to manage the collections from the Business Alerts window under Credit Management tab. You'll see 3 tabs across the bottom for credit-held customers, overdue invoices, and disputed invoices. Double-clicking on either the customer or the invoice will open the specific window for you to review and investigate further. Some Acctivate users have customers who require the use of their own product IDs. On the customer window, you can select your internal products and assign customer-specific product IDs. This especially comes in handy for things like EDI processing, where let's say you sell to Walmart or Target or both, and they each have their own unique IDs where they send orders with those specific IDs, and you need to be able to match those to the products that you have internally in Acctivate. Because, you probably have your own internal ID, and then there's customer-specific product IDs, and you could go even further and do vendor product IDs as well. So let's get into some specific ways to track communications, beginning with Business Alerts. Business Alerts is a utility where you can manage your reminders, credit, purchase orders, inventory, and even some web store orders if you're utilizing that module. There is a Sales Order Management tab as well, but this will eventually be replaced by the Order Manager tool. The reminders are linked to notes on specific documents and can be assigned to a user for follow-up. For the users with business activities, you'll be able to manage projects, tasks, and services in one window with the ability to link related items such as customers, orders, inventory transactions, and even custom URLs. It gives you the ability to set statuses per each unique task or step, and each linked item will show the related business activity on that related window. Crystal Reports is another great tool for customer management. Acctivate uses the Crystal Report Viewer to preview the reports inside the system. On top of the standard Acctivate reports, you can customize your own utilizing the Crystal Reports application. This is what's so great about us using the Crystal Reports viewer is it gives you the ability to create your own unique reports based on your needs, whether you do that internally or you contract a consultant to do so. It's really a great tool to see the specific information that you're looking for rather than having to deal with a whole bunch of different queries or, connecting tables and all that good stuff. For snapshot reports, which are typically one page, you can set them up to be a dashboard report. The dashboard is configurable per user, so the sales manager can set up theirs to show salesperson totals, while the purchasing manager can set up theirs to be based on purchase orders or vendor balances. The users can also set a refresh rate to see real-time information displayed on each report. To keep in touch with your customers, users can set up their email to either integrate with Outlook using the MAPI settings or directly logging into their email provider using the SMTP setup. When using MAPI settings, you'll have the options to see the sent emails in Outlook. It does require you to have Outlook installed on the machine that you're running Acctivate on, but it is something that a lot of our customers like to use. The other option is to use your individual email settings to log directly into your email provider when Outlook either can't be installed on the same machine or you just prefer not to use that app. Personally, I prefer using SMTP. All emails sent out of Acctivate are saved within the window you sent them from, so they're going to be accessible from wherever you're sending them, also wherever you drag and drop those files. And you can drag and drop files either directly from Outlook, or you can save a .msg file on your desktop or in some directory, and you can drag and drop it from that directory into the window whenever your customer responds to those emails you send out of Acctivate. Now, if you are using MAPI, you might see a message from Outlook to allow access. We do have a help article on our help site that goes over possible options that you can do to try to get around that message. But if you can't get around that message using the article that we have, you might want to contact your email administrator and see what settings on Exchange they can update to just go ahead and allow access to send emails through that connection. Acctivate utilizes email templates based on the document you're sending the email out of. You can now also set default templates based on where you're emailing. Maybe you're emailing from a sales order, or you're emailing pack list, or even a customer invoice. And you have a common message that you like to use based on that type of document. So now you can set these defaults in Configuration Manager based on the forms. And so the users aren't manually typing these email templates each time or having to select them based on what they're trying to tell their customer. The templates also allow you to drop fields from the database to pre-fill in the email. This is especially useful when sending orders and invoices. You can set the subject to include the specific order or invoice number, as well as the customer information and order specs in the body of the email. Each template can be marked to be used by all users or only by the user who created the template. This really just depends on what you're doing. I know internally for support requests, we have some default templates that we use all the time. And then we also in implementation have some of our own, individual templates that we like to do. It's just emails that we're typing all the time. And instead of having to type it all the time, we set those up as a template. Marketing codes are another useful tool in customer communications. It gives you the ability to see where the customer or order was sourced from. You'll be able to do things like broadcast emails or even Excel queries or Microsoft queries on the database to grab a list of customers based on how that customer originated in the system or the sales order originated. And kind of in conjunction with that, marketing lists can be used with marketing codes or on their own. Typically, the marketing lists are going to be used when sending things like catalogs to your customers. You can do a query on the database as well as create a marketing list based on the specific list that customer is assigned to. And that way you can send only to, let's say, your fall or spring customers who like to receive newsletters But maybe your summer customers or the winter customers, if you have a seasonal business, they don't need that information at that time. So you can kind of break out your marketing campaigns into specific groups rather than sending a blanket email to all customers, because it may not be relatable. And I've actually got some implementations that use marketing codes and marketing lists to do things like send their catalogs or price list, or update if they're using like Constant Contact. They can use a database query or create that marketing list and import that information into the tool that you're using. So one of the questions I'm sure you have is, when should I use a business activity versus a note? So these are the main differences between business activities and notes. Business activities is an add-on module or modules. There are multiple modules. So if you just need business activities by themselves, for instance, if you're not going to be adding time and materials to maybe those projects to do service billing, we've broken those out into separate modules. So you just have business activities, the business activity, service billing, and then also scheduling. But notes or reminders are built into Acctivate and are used through the business alerts utility. Now, business activities are used for projects, while the notes are going to be used more for tasks or like one-off scenarios, or just reminders to get in contact with a customer. It's not necessarily something you're going to be tracking on an ongoing basis. And also for business activities, they actually can have their own notes related to the specific business activity. So since the notes are just a single note, business activities would be a way that you could have multiple notes or multiple reminders to reach out to those customers or check up on the status internally for whatever project you're running. Also, business activities have an assigned user that you can change or reassign as needed throughout the project. And a note is just going to have a single follow-up by a user who, once they've followed up, is going to complete the task. And then if they need to create a new reminder, they just create a new one altogether. And then business activities also can have related email messages, while the notes aren't going to have an email message. It's just strictly the note. And also the business activity itself can have multiple related documents. So that could be sales orders, purchase orders, products, credit memos, service orders, inventory transactions can be linked to it. You can even link products, and if you use lot serial control, you can link those specific lot or serial numbers. Like if you're doing an RMA, you can link all the related transactions that are technically linked to the shipment that you sent to the customer. And that goes into the next section, where business activities are going to be used for RMAs. So if you want to, instead of just using the credit memo process by itself, if you wanted to create a business activity to create an RMA number, that is how you would do so. Also, we've got some customers that do services, whether that's if you're in the, maybe the electronics industry and you do a lot of projects, stuff like that. And then again, the notes is just going to be this single document related to whatever window you've got it attached to. And then also it's going to be for phone calls, follow-ups, stuff like that, whether that's internal or external. And so to dig a little deeper into business activities, you have the ability to set up specific configuration. This includes type, status, code, resolution, and priority. The priority is actually what helps you set the default due date for a business activity. So if it's something that has a higher priority, you can set the due date to be maybe 2 hours. Or if it's something that, the project may take multiple days, the priority is in hours. So you would just calculate the number of hours that it takes to get to those number of days, and that will set the due date on the business activity. And these specifications give the users an idea on where you are in the project, return, or service, because you can change the status as you go and then update any necessary notes as needed. Users will also have the ability to review and sort each activity in the business activity review window, whether it's assigned to them or unassigned. For us, we use business review window to separate out support, implementation, and sales. And within each group, there are specific steps used within each project. So you can also sort in the business activity review window based on, let's say, status, and then by priority, or priority and then by status. You can kind of give yourself a hierarchy on what needs to be done first versus what's something that you can maybe put off a little bit that's maybe not as important. Each business activity will have its own unique opened, due, appointment, and promise dates, as well as assigned user. As the project goes through each process, you can assign to a different user so they're aware that they need to jump in or maybe do something to further that project along. You'll also be able to utilize text boxes for description of the work, maybe some discussion of specific information, and even a resolution on what was done to complete the project. So for us, for support requests, you'll have a short description of the work, I'm getting a sync error, and then you'll have a discussion of all the related details. So maybe the sync error is because I created a customer in QuickBooks and then I created a customer in Acctivate separately, and when I ran a sync, I got a sync error saying that there was a duplicate because they were created separately instead of letting the sync or the synchronization process create those customers in whichever system that it wasn't created in originally. And then we use resolution to say, we connected to the customer, resolved the sync error, this is what we did, maybe we merged them or whatever was done. And that gives you, information. So in the future, if you have to look back to see what was done, you have that information in that business activity. And one of the awesome parts about business activities is the ability to attach multiple related items. When doing something like an RMA, you can attach the customer, the original sales order, the credit memo you create. You can even create the credit memo from the business activity, and even the specific serial or lot number like I was talking about earlier if you're utilizing those add-on modules. You can even go as far as adding, the receipt, transfer, or any other transaction related to that project. And doing so adds the business activity to each window you've attached as a related item. So if you've got an activity that's linked to a customer, order, and a product, whenever you open that specific customer, order, or product window, you'll see that related activity and whether it's opened or closed, and you can open it from each of those windows. So when sending emails from an activity, you'll see them all saved on the email tab. Users also have the ability to drag and drop emails just like you do on all the other windows, like your customer window. That way, if you get responses from the emails that you're sending outside of Acctivate, you can drag and drop like we were talking about earlier. And if you've purchased the service billing module, you'll be able to add time and materials to the business activity. This comes in handy when you're tracking projects and you need to track the time and materials that you're actually using, or, what employees are doing or how much time they're spending on the project. The time tab allows you to add a specific billing option. So it's no bill, no charge, and standard. No bill means it won't show on a service order. No charge will show on the service order, but it won't have a price. And then standard will show a charge, or it will charge the standard price for the specific labor item that you're billing the customer. And then obviously on the materials tab, if you're charging for the materials, it'll be the same as if you're creating a sales order. It'll default to the price that you have set on the business activity whenever you create the service order from the business activity. You'll also be able to see a log of activity based on your configuration options. If it's important for you to know who reassigned or changed the status of a business activity, you can set in Configuration Manager to log each of those changes for a business activity. And then also business activities give you the ability to track custom fields within each project. So internally for the implementation team, we have custom fields for the interview, model, and go live dates. This helps us understand where a customer is in the process during the implementation and what tasks have been completed and when they were completed. So that way somebody on the outside can look in, on the outside within our organization, can look into the business activity and see, okay, so we opened the business activity on this date, and then we had the interview call this date, and then we created the model company maybe the same day or the next day. And we're still not live yet. We're waiting to go live. We're still doing training. So it's really neat. The business activities really gives you a lot of flexibility to do that. But since it is an add-on module, we're also going to cover notes and reminders. So notes are the more simplistic version of tracking customer communications. However, it is an extremely helpful tool for those businesses that don't require project tracking and really just need a task management tool. You'll see any note with a follow-up date and user in the user-specific reminder list of business alerts. Users can either complete from the alerts tool or on the individual document the note is attached to. One of the main differences in notes is that notes are attached to a single document. This means that you can have a note on a customer, invoice, order, product, business activity, etc. that's not seen on other windows. For the customer window, you can attach a note to the account, just the general customer window, the credit tab, and also on the ship to location tab for each specific ship to location. So being able to have a reminder set on the credit tab is another function of keeping track of those collections. So you can say, if you have a specific department or user that contacts customers whenever invoices are overdue or anything like that, you can do specific follow-ups or tasks on the credit tab of the customer. Each note will have an added by user with a timestamp of when it was created. And if you want to set a reminder, so you want to see it on business alerts, you'll need to set up a follow-up user and date. And then once completed, the assigned user will mark it as such to remove it from their reminders list. And you'll also be able to see the full list of notes on each window and whether or not they've been completed. The note itself is a free-form text field. Users can enter whatever information they like in here. Also, you can attach a single document to the note itself. So this would be a way to attach things like a spec sheet or sales or purchase orders. Now, this doesn't get around using something like Smart Vault. Smart Vault is going to allow you to attach multiple documents to a specific, like for instance, a sales order. A note is just going to have one attachment attached to that specific note. So let's go ahead and get into Acctivate and kind of see how all this works. So in Configuration Manager, you can set each user to open certain windows automatically whenever you log in. So I've set my demo sys user to open the business activity review, business alerts, and dashboard windows. So let's start by talking about this dashboard. The default dashboard is set up for sales managers in the demo company. Now, everybody that has Acctivate has access to the demo company. So if you have questions on maybe common uses or maybe how some people might set up their dashboard, feel free to log into your demo company. It's just SYS without a password. But each dashboard can be configured by user, and if you have a new company that it's just been created, there's not going to be any reports on there, so you'll have to actually add reports specific to the user. So let's go ahead and add a report to this dashboard, and let's say I am one of the sales managers and I want to make sure that I'm keeping track of the customer balances. So when you click edit, you go to add report, and let's go to customer information, balances, and the top in customer balances. And that in is the number of records you want to see in the report. If you have, if you've seen that on other standard Acctivate reports, that's what that's for. So let's say we want to see the top 15 and we want to see customers. So you can see that there's different groups that you can group it by: customer, customer type, branch, salesperson, state. I'm going to do customer. And then I also want to go a little bit further and do a specific branch. So equal to the F branch. And we do have a webinar that covers, how to modify, add reports, move them all around on our help site. So feel free to look that up if you want more details on the specifics. It's going to put it up here on the top by default, but if you grab the header and you hover over these different sections, you can actually make it to be where it's a tabbed thing at the bottom. And then we'll hit save. And then this will give you insight on which customers might need more attention. So if their balances are high, they're either a high volume customer, so they're order a whole bunch of stuff from you, or they're a little late on their payments and probably need to be contacted to get their receivables a little bit more up to date. So you can see here that white is either a high volume customer or they just, are a little behind on their payments. And so this will give you some insight on, maybe who you should contact if you're having some issues with your customer balances. And this is just a tip of the iceberg for the dashboard reports. So if you have any questions on that, again, check out that video we have on our help site that goes over configuration of this. Or if you have any other specific questions, feel free to create a support request and we'll be happy to help you. And so this balance summary kind of goes into conjunction with the business alerts window behind here. So the business alerts window shows any open reminders as well as other tasks. It defaults to the user who is logged in. So you can see I'm logged in right now as Lauren Stein, but I have the permissions to see other people's reminders, and then you can also set it to anybody to see any open reminders that might be in the system. But I just want to see mine, and then you can see all, and then you can filter on specific documents or windows, as well as the due date. And then you can complete these notes. So you can either do it by checking the box right here and hitting refresh. You can open it and, maybe add to this note if you want to, or and do complete. So we'll go ahead and do complete and save and close. And then you can see that removes it from your reminders list. Okay, and then let's go ahead and open this next one. So you can see here that you can, who added it, who's the follow-up user, when they should follow up. I know this is a little old. We can change this to today. And then you can assign a specific time if you wanted to say, maybe you do business in the central time and you need to contact somebody at specific time. So you need to make sure that you don't call them at 9 o'clock a.m. Central is 7 o'clock a.m. Pacific. You don't want to wake somebody up, to talk to them about collections. That probably wouldn't be a good idea. So, and then at the bottom here, you can see what document it's linked to. And then let's say if you created it on the customer credit tab, but that was a mistake and you want to move it to maybe the customer account, you can do that move to, and you can select what document you'd like to add it to. And then if you click on that, it'll do a lookup window for you to select the proper record. And then again, we talked about attachments. If you wanted to attach a file, you can do so using this attach here, and it's just going to be one document per note. And you can also view the customer credit. This one is a customer credit related to a specific customer. So let's go ahead and take a look. We can click on this little link at the bottom, and that'll open the specific customer record. And you can see that note on the credit tab. So let's say call to request payment. Christy promised to send a check overnight. We're going to go ahead and complete that task because we've gone ahead and, maybe we've got notification or something. But now we have a new note, and we want to make sure to follow up to see that maybe for Judy, to make sure that we actually received it in the mail. And we'll set it for the 21st because it usually takes a couple of days for the mail to get here. Save and close. And now you see that I added a new one, and it's set to be followed up by Judy Jones on Friday. Okay, and then the customer window has a lot of information, including we've got this main customer information with this is what updates your accounting software like QuickBooks. So company name, the address, which you can show the address fields. If you're going to edit an address, I would do so in edit mode and do it in this address info box. So you can put it in the right field, so that way when it synchronizes, there's no assumptions being made between the programs on which field or which value should go in which field. And then also a good tool is that you can click on this and it'll open Google Maps to show you that specific address. So you can take a look at that and say, oh, well, 450 North Main Street doesn't actually exist, or there's nothing there. Maybe this isn't the right address and we should contact the customer and figure out, did they move? Like, what happened? Also, we have the main phone information. So this is going to be related to the main customer contact. So this is Christy, and it's her main phone, fax, email address, and then an alternate phone, which might be maybe her cell phone number. And then also you can put the website if you need to track that information. And if you click this little button right here, it'll open their actual website. And then kind of back to what we were talking about for the credit over here. You can put customers on credit hold with the proper permissions. You can set their credit limit, a rating, what source you got that rating from. You can also do preferred payment. You can do credit card information. I would recommend managing the credit card information if that's their preferred payment in Acctivate. It is encrypted, and with the proper permissions, you can see the details. And it's already expired, so we'll just put this here so we can save it. All right, and then you can also have the date opened. If you do a credit review on a regular basis, you can have this. You can use this checkbox. Also the collection trend. So this is how many days it took to receive payment for the last handful of invoices. Now, obviously, this is demo data, so this is going to be pretty old. But just keep that in mind that your customers are probably going to have just a few days, hopefully just a few days for these collection trends. And then you've got the notes and specific phone information for credit. And then we've got ship to locations, so you can have specific ship to locations with their own individual notes as well. Let's say, this downtown location is to be closed on Labor Day, so we don't want to ship on Labor Day. You can hold shipments and set a from and to dates. Let's say you could add a note saying that, maybe this location is going to be closing down. So that way you can set it to the user that does your shipments, saying that, we need to put this ship to location on hold as of May 1st because they're no longer going to accept shipments from this place. And then also you can track the unique, each different ship to location and see those notes are specific to the ship to location. And then also the, map reference, if you're using maybe Mapscos. I know those might be a little outdated nowadays, but also you can do route tracking, stops, routing instructions, default ship via, default FOB, and job numbers per ship to location. And then you can add and delete ship to locations as needed up here. Okay, and then one of the parts about the customer window is that you can check out the invoices. So by default, it's going to be only the open invoices or invoices that have open balances, and then you can toggle the include zero balance items. And then you can also sort based on, how many days they're past due, current invoices, payments, credit balance items, etc. Now let's open one of these invoices by double clicking on it. And here you can do things like, let's say this customer has actually disputed this invoice for some reason or another. You can check this in dispute. Now, what that does is it actually takes this amount out of your credit evaluation, because if it's in dispute, you don't want it to affect their credit limits or anything like that, because maybe it's in dispute because they didn't receive it. Your shipping department says that, yes, we've shipped it, and it says it was delivered, but the customer says that they never got it. Nobody ever signed for it or anything, so you want to check that in dispute. And you can also update the reference to, and if the due date is going to default based on the terms, but let's say we want to give them a little bit more time. So we're going to set that due date to 4/30, and then when the next time you run a synchronization, it's going to show that it's in dispute in QuickBooks as well as that new due date. And then also you can see here that we have a notes window on the invoice window. Okay, and the sales tab is where you would assign the marketing codes and lists as well as who referred them if it's another customer in your database. So you've got a customer that refers a lot of other customers to you because they're really satisfied with the services that you provide. And so you can link that referred by customer to this new customer. And then we've got this marketing code list, which again is usually the source. And then if you do marketing lists, you can check to see which ones they fall under. This customer likes to get catalogs, newsletters, regular mailings, and special promotions, but they don't like to get, obviously, prospect mailings because they're a customer of ours. And then you also see the sales history with the totals over here on the right. And then we have the orders, so you can toggle the all open. And this just kind of goes into that credit management as well as sales order management to give you an idea on what's open, what's closed, what you need to check up on, and all that good information. And then like we talked about earlier, you can have specific customer contacts. Each contact will have its own unique contact ID per customer, as well as the name and title. I've actually got some customers that use the contact ID or the title to do things like the broadcast emails. so they can send a broadcast email to all the payable employees of your customers or something like that. And then each contact will have its own unique phone, fax, email, alternate phone, mobile, and other. And then we also have a prices window, which we have a full webinar on all of the pricing options. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to check out our webinars page on our help site. And then we also have customer products. So you can filter this list of products that they've purchased with a look for, or filter on a specific product ID to see specific information. Well, maybe you're on the phone with a customer and you want to see what price you charged them last time, how many they ordered, what invoice number, if you gave them a discount. And you can actually move these lines around or these columns around. So let's say you want to see price is a little bit more important, so you want to put that over here by the invoice date, and you can look for, let's see, paint, and that'll show you all the paint items, and that paint is actually in the description over here. And you can see, okay, so they got TP202, 4, and 5, and it was all actually on the same invoice, and this is the price you charged, and here was the lot number you sent them. So that's a good tool while you're on the phone with a customer if they have questions about something that you've invoiced them. And then also we've got this view lot serial information. If you have the lot serial tracking, you can view the specific product that you've highlighted, and you can also view the specific order related to this transaction. And then the product IDs tab is what I was talking about earlier in the presentation. So you can say that, okay, we've got product A121, this glass cleaner, but this customer actually wants to call it, you know, I don't know, Windex or Windex Plus, let's say. And then they have their own description or something. And so this way, whenever, if you've got EDI and they send that Windex Plus as the product ID, then, you know, Acctivate will be able to figure out which product that relates to in your Acctivate database. And then also the reports can be modified to show the customer product ID or the customer description whenever you print those orders. And then here's any related business activities to this customer. So you could see we've got a few here, and it shows the activity, date, due date, promise date, the status, if it's closed, what date it was closed on, what type it is, as well as the description and who it's assigned to. And then the email tab will show you any emails that you've sent out of Acctivate or dragged and dropped into Acctivate. And if you have Outlook, you can drag and drop directly from Outlook, but I don't have Outlook set up on this computer, and so I can actually drag and drop an email from the desktop. But you can see the preview of the email over here on the right, and then also this checkbox is whether or not it was sent. And then also you can see, you know, if there's attachments to that email. And again, this is where the MAPI versus SMTP comes into play, where I was talking about I don't have Outlook on this computer. So MAPI is when you have Outlook on the same machine as Acctivate, so you can drag and drop directly from Outlook, and then SMTP can be used with our Outlook with or without Outlook being installed, since it logs directly into your email server. My demo is actually set up to use SMTP, but we do have a lot of customers that use MAPI. So clicking any of the email buttons within Acctivate will bring up the email window inside Acctivate. And so this one, I clicked the email next to the customer email, the main customer contact email. And so it brings up this message. You can see I'm emailing it from the customer account. And we've got email templates. And I've got an email template set up as like a welcome email. So let's say this is a new customer and we want to send them a welcome email. We just go to template, insert, welcome, and then it says, you know, it gives the subject of our company name. It says, hey, you know, we're excited to start working with you on your supply needs. Let us know if you have any questions. And this is where the message templates come into play. So you can manage the message templates either directly from the email window, or you can do it from the file menu, message templates. And here's all of our message templates. So for a new order, let's see, we've got this template ID of new order with the subject of Southwestern Industries dash the order number. Now this right here is a field inserted from the database. So that's where this insert field comes into play. And Acctivate knows which fields to choose based on the type or the document that you're sending it from. And so you can say, okay, well, I want it to be order number, and I go alphabetically down here to order number, and you just click it, and it pre-fills. And so when you're sending an email from an order, it will fill in this information for you based on what's on that order. And then, so I'll just go ahead and, or no, we're not going to save that. And talking about default email templates, let's go into Configuration Manager. So you can actually set default templates based on the window you're sending it from. So that's done in sales orders, forms, and you can set a default message template. So I've got this, when I'm emailing a sales order, the message template is going to default to this new order, and you can select from any of your templates. So if you're emailing a pig ticket, you can select a default shipping document, invoice, service order, quote, credit memo. Save. And then again, here's these windows that are popping up automatically again. And so here's the business alerts. We've got credit management, which this is going to be, if you've got customers that are on hold or over their limit, overdue invoices, and if you double click on one of these, it will actually open the related invoice for you to research further, and then also disputed invoices, which we just checked that one as being disputed a moment ago. All right, so let's get into some of these business activities. And I'm going to go back into Abercrombie. And let's go to orders, and we'll go to completed. And let's say that the customer contacted us and they wanted to, or maybe something was damaged during the shipment and they needed to return it, and also for us to send something back to them. So if you've got business activities, you can actually open that original sales order or just a business activity by itself and add it as a related item. But you can click New Activity, and that'll open the business activity window. Drag this over here a little bit. And you can set the type to RMA. And then we've got some default code resolution priorities here. The priority, again, sets the due date to be a specific date based on the time that you created it. And it looks like we've got it to be 24 hours after you create it. You can assign it to a specific user. I'm going to assign it to myself. And then you have specific statuses. So let's say we're going to do open. And, we'll say damaged on shipment. And they're sending it back and need a replacement. So here we have the related items. You can add a customer, a specific customer shipped to location, sales quote, sales or service order, credit memo, product, lot serial number, the whole list of inventory transactions, vendor, purchase order, other contact, which this doesn't add a customer contact to the actual customer record. It's just specifically for the business activity. You can add a related business activity, and then you can also have these custom URLs. So you could put in, maybe a Google search, and it'll prompt you to enter in the information you want to search in Google. So let's add Abercrombie. And it's going to default to the contact that I had selected since I was looking it up based on the contact. So I selected Christy, and you can see that it defaulted to Christy's. And I want to set the customer to be the primary related item. And it's not going to be Christy, maybe Bill. He's the one that contacted us for this RMA. So we're going to want to contact him for any updates or any information that we have questions on. And we save it. And then you can see here that they have an expired contract, a customer contract, and that's going to show here. So if you've got projects that have these contract dates, you can add those contracts to the customer record. And here we'll open this customer just so you can see this real quick. On the Prices tab, Contracts, this is where you can set the contract begin and end dates, as well as the contract ID, description, who the contact is, and all the specifics. Okay, and so they want to replace just one item. and we're going to say it's the N10H, and we don't want to create the credit from the original sales order because, there's multiple lines on this sales order and we don't want to have to go through and delete it. Let's say this sales order originally has like 20 lines, but they're only returning one thing. So it wouldn't really make sense to create the credit memo from the original sales order. We want to actually create it from the business activity, because when you create it from the business activity, it actually links it to that activity and adds the related customer information to it. So it's N10H, and we're returning 1 at this price, so this is going to be a credit of $602 after tax. But we also want to send them another N10H. So we're going to add that as a positive line, and we're going to zero the price out because we're not going to charge them to send them another one. So after we save and create this credit, and run a sync, you're actually going to see this credit over in QuickBooks for $602 that you can apply to any open balances, or if the customer requested, you can send them a refund through QuickBooks. And then as you can see here, we've got the closed sales order because that's been invoiced, and then the open credit memo here. And the closed one is going to be kind of grayed out, and the open one is going to be just regular font. Okay, and then let's say we want to send them an email. So we're going to do email, RMA, and then this is the same thing. We've got this template that has the RMA number. We've processed your RMA number S4130X. You should receive the item shortly. We apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused. Change out the email, so let's send it to myself. And then now you see we have this sent email because it's checked. We've got a preview on the email tab. And then you can open this email and reply all, or forward it, or even resend it to that customer, or if you want to forward it to somebody else in your team. Then we have the notes again, so you can track all the communications. So we've gone ahead and sent the RMA to customer, waiting to process shipment in warehouse. And we're not going to save that, we're not going to follow up on that, because this is just a note to let us know that where it is. And then also we can say, it's been authorized. And then when this process is complete, you can change the status to closed, or whatever your closed status is. And then also, again, if you have that service module, you can add time and materials. So let's say if you had to do work for this, you can choose a labor item, and then how much time. And then this is where those billing options come into play. No bill, no charge, or standard. No bill means that when you run your service billing wizard, it's going to check this as being billed, but it's not going to show up on a service order. And then if we open Abercrombie, again, we can see this damaged shipment, this RMA. If we open the credit memo, we can see the related business activities here as well, and that it's still open. And then also we can open the closed sales order from the business activity. All the related items that are on this business activity that are linked, you'll be able to open those windows to research further. And again, add notes if you need to, or send emails, or really anything you need. And then I see that we're running a little bit short on time here, so I'm going to quickly talk about business activity review. So you can create new activities, you can change the columns that you see here. You can sort or group. Let's say we group based on type by dragging that to the top. And then I also want to see a hierarchy of status. So it's going to sort by type and then by status. And so you can see sales opportunity pending, and then RMA authorized, and if we had open ones and all that stuff. And then you can also filter this even further, include unassigned, specific types, codes, resolutions, status, priority, and date. So now let's touch a little bit on the mailing list, because I know some of y'all are interested in that. We've got broadcast email messages where you can actually send an email to a group of customers based on specific criteria. And there's also create mailing list. So we're going to just create a mailing list, and we're going to enter the specific qualifications. So let's say we want to create a mailing list for customers that have a newsletter marketing list checked on their customer account. And we'll hit next, and this will show us all the customers that have that marketing list specified on their account. And then if you wanted to add a note to each customer, April 2017 newsletter, and we'll hit next, and then export file. It's going to export it as a CSV. Save, export, exported successfully. That is now on my desktop. So I'll bring that over on this window. And then you see here it exports the customer ID or the customer name, the address information. It's pretty much the main customer information, the created date, last sales order date, if they have a marketing code, and also if they have an email. So we can actually go one step further here. Let's go ahead and save this as a Excel workbook. And let's say instead of, like, maybe this isn't enough information for you, or maybe you use Constant Contact or some other kind of marketing tool. So you can open Excel and go and do a query on the actual Acctivate database by going to the Data tab. And we actually have a full webinar on doing queries either through Excel or through Microsoft Query. So we're just going to do this real quick from other sources, from SQL Server. And we're going to do the server name /Acctivate, and I'm going to use the SA username and password, which if you need that information, feel free to contact us and we will definitely give it to you. And you hit next, and then you'll select the database that you want to pull information from. I'm going to do demo, and let's do the customer email address list. Next, and then you can save this query to refresh or go back to later and hit finish. Yes, I want to replace it. I already have a file named that. And then where do you want this to go? And then this will show you, this is information that you could use to import, let's say, into Constant Contact. So you've got the customer ID, maybe you don't need the salesperson or status, and you can just delete that from here. And you can save this Excel sheet to update Constant Contact with current contact information. So these are all of our customer emails that we have in our demo company. And then also phone, fax, and then if the contact itself is active. And then with Excel queries as well as Microsoft queries, you can refresh the data as needed. So if you add email addresses or something in Acctivate and you refresh this, it'll refresh it and pull in all that current information. And then in Excel you can use the specific filters and pretty much all the Excel functions that you would need. I know we covered a whole bunch of information today. I hope it wasn't too much. As always, you can check our help site if you have questions, and let's see if we have any questions that have been unanswered. Okay, so can you send email lists based on customers who have ordered a specific product? You definitely can do an email list based on customers who have ordered a specific product. That's actually, you could do that either through an Excel query on the database and just use Excel to filter out specific information. So you would do maybe the customer product view and then filter on a specific product to get the customers that have ordered or have had that product invoiced for them, or even Microsoft Query. So you can get specific fields to send information. So you can get the customer name, their address information, their phone number, and then you can only pull customers that have ordered a specific product. I've actually got customers doing that currently. So here's a question about maybe an error that you might receive. Sometimes I get an error when I try to email sales orders from Acctivate. The error message says login has failed. Do you know why that happens? So that typically will happen if maybe your email service requires you to update your password every 90 days or so, and you've updated that password in your email, but you haven't updated that password in your user setup in Acctivate. So whenever you send an email from Acctivate after you've updated that, then you'll get that message on login has failed. So just make sure to check your user settings, or have your administrator for Acctivate check your user settings to make sure it is the password that's up to date. What is the preferred method for email connectivity, MAPI or SMTP? That's definitely SMTP because it sends directly through your email service or email server. It's much more reliable and efficient. But we do have a lot of our customers prefer MAPI just because they use Outlook, on a daily basis. So they just use that connection to send emails. And, you might run into the message that says you need to allow Acctivate to send or use Outlook. If you're seeing that message a lot and you're trying to get around it, we do have a help article that goes over some options that you might try to grant access to Acctivate. If those options don't work, then you'll need to contact your email administrator to see if there's something that they can do on their end to allow the app to send emails through Acctivate. I hope you got a lot of good information, and I hope you have a good day, and thank you for joining us.